Hey Trekkies, welcome back to another Yelling About Star Trek video. My name is Christian Fox, and this is a channel where I yell at you about all things Star Trek for your amusement. Today, I want to talk about the newest trailer that was released yesterday for Star Trek Picard Season 3, and let me tell you, there's a lot to unpack. And of course, there's also the USS Titan-A. The newest trailer gave us a closer look at the TNG cast, and while it was great to see everyone, there's really only two people that I want to talk about because for me, I felt like seeing those two folks, we got some really interesting and new information. The first, of course, is Dr. Crusher, and we see her on a planet or maybe a starship. We see her somewhere doing action-y things. She's shooting people. Bad guys are coming after her. But to me, there was really two standouts in that scene. One was that Dr. Crusher was not wearing a Starfleet uniform. She was kind of wearing the similar outfit to the one that we saw in the previous trailer, which suggests that maybe she's actually retired from Starfleet and doing something else. But outside of the uniform was the phaser rifle. And it wasn't just a phaser rifle. It was a phaser rifle from First Contact and Nemesis, maybe a combination of the two, because obviously Nemesis, there was the redesign of the phaser rifles and the phasers. So it seemed like it was a combination, but to me, it looked perfect. And it was a nice callback to my favorite era of Star Trek, which is TNG, DS9, Voyager. And it was just so great to see it. And the second TNG character reveal that I thought was really exciting was that Geordi is wearing a gold uniform. And now, from what I understand about the new Picard books, is that Geordi's actually a Commodore, which means that not only is he like a captain because he can captain a ship, but he can command a whole fleet of ships, much like Admiral Riker did in All Good Things. And we've seen Commodores a lot in the original series, but haven't seen them much in TNG beyond Commodore O. And I should say the TNG era. And what's really exciting about him being a Commodore is that he has all the command level responsibilities, but because he's in a gold uniform, suggests that his specialty is still engineering, which means that engineering will be a major part of his role. And it's a little bit different seeing a command level officer wearing gold and not red, because typically they are red in the TNG era. But there have been a couple of times where we've seen admirals and commodores in a different color. We saw Admiral Todman in DS9, and he wore a gold uniform because his specialty was Starfleet security. And then we also saw the evil Commodore O in Star Trek Picard Season 1, who also wore gold because she was part of Starfleet security. And the trailer also gave us a little bit about the plot, but not that much, because really all we know is that bad guys are up to no good, and somehow part of their plan involves destroying Starfleet HQ. But the thing that's throwing me off is I'm not seeing any San Franciscan landmarks in that one shot, and we know that Starfleet HQ is in San Francisco, so I'm not sure. Maybe there's something outside of the shot that we just haven't seen, or maybe they relocated in between Season 2 and Season 3. We'll just have to wait and see. One of the things that really pulled at my heartstrings in the trailer was that of seeing the TNG communicator. It looked cool. It looked a little bit revamped, like it had a bit more detail than what I am used to, especially in the outline groove. So it was really cool to see it again. And what I suspect is going on is that Crusher had to use that communicator to get the message to Picard, but she specifically used the old classic TNG communicator because she didn't want to arouse suspicion, as I'm not sure why she would have used that instead of using a regular current era communicator. So I suspect that's why she's doing it. But regardless, it was so great to see it again. And I love it. Anytime I get to see something that reminds me of TNG or something from TNG, I'm always, always, always excited. And one of my favorite callbacks in the trailer was the space dock that we first got to see in Star Trek 3, The Search for Spock. I've always loved that space dock. I think it looked great. I love the interiors. It was massive, and you really got a sense of the impressive ability that Starfleet has to engineer things. And of course they're impressive, and you get to see that all the time with their starships. But that space dock and the scale of the space dock is just so incredible. So I love seeing it again. It was a revamped space dock. They had the 2 extra platforms from what I could tell. There's probably maybe more platforms that we couldn't see, but it was cool to see the extra little platforms, and the detail looked great. Obviously, we're watching a show now in 2023. Well, actually it's 2022, but it's going to come out in 2023. So we're definitely going to get things like that where we see a classic element of Star Trek, but it has a lot more detail. So it was really great to see a more detailed, spiffy looking space dock. And I'm all for it. I love the space dock, and I really don't think we get enough of Earth's space dock in Star Trek. But of course, the space dock is not the big thing about the trailer. The TNG communicator is not the big thing about the trailer. The big thing about this trailer was the reveal of the USS Titan-A. And let me tell you, I loved the reveal. I was very excited about it, and it was just super cool to see. But one of the things I want to touch on for a second before I get into the design of the Titan is the reveal that Annika Hansen, aka 7 of 9, is the commanding officer of the USS Titan. But Picard does call her commander, so it suggests that maybe she's not a full captain yet, but she's still in command, much in the same way we saw Captain Sisko in command of DS9, even though he was only a commander for the first 3 seasons. So it might be a similar situation to that, but either way, it's really cool to see her in Starfleet and in command of a ship, or at least in a command position. All right, that's a lot. Let's talk about the design of the Titan. Well, I love the reveal. I'm so glad the Titan's in this series. I love the fact that it's the Titan-A. I have to say, I didn't love the design. Personally, I love the design that we got in Lower Decks, and that's sort of the design that I've been thinking about as my canon design. And granted, this is a refit, much like we got the refit Enterprise in the motion picture. But for me, my biggest gripe of the ship is that the nacelles are up top and not below like we saw in Lower Decks. And I love the look of the nacelles below. I thought it really stood out because we're so used to ships in Star Trek having the nacelles up top, and we get that all the time because, well, we get to watch the Enterprise all the time, and that's the iconic Enterprise look. So I always love it when we got to see different ships, and we got to see ships that have the nacelles below. I'm a huge fan of the Miranda class just because, well, the Reliant to me is a classic ship, and I love the Wrath of Khan. So I love ships that call back to it. So I love the look of the Titan in Lower Decks because it felt like Star Trek. It felt like a callback to classic Trek, but it felt different from the Enterprise. This one, well, I think it still has some nods to classic Trek, especially if you look at the deflector dish, or rather the engineering hall. You get that feeling of an Excelsior class, maybe something more akin to the Enterprise B. But I just wish they had put the nacelles below because it could really make it stand out from the Enterprise and not just look like an Enterprise-like ship. But the bridge, on the other hand, is perfect. I love the look of the bridge in that it feels very much like the bridges we've seen in Picard, especially in Season 2. You've got the L-cars, which I loved, and I was kind of annoyed they didn't have in Season 1, but really glad they brought back in Season 2. So it's great to see them. But for me, the standout were the chairs. I myself love the Enterprise E. In fact, I think the Enterprise E is my favorite ship, and I love the bridge, and I love the Enterprise E chairs. So seeing chairs that were similar to the Enterprise E chairs was great, and I love the little callback. So of course, I'll take any callback to the Enterprise E that I can get. So I was very, very happy to see it. And it feels like Trek, but also feels very modern. And, would I have liked them to keep the interior of the Enterprise E in the same way that they do it with Lower Decks? Probably, but I'm still very happy with it. And I think the bridge is perfect. Overall, I love the trailer, and I'm very, very excited for Season 3. And honestly, February 16th can't get here soon enough. But until then, I will post more videos and more analysis of everything that we saw in this trailer. So please stay tuned for that. But what about you? Did you like the trailer? Did you have a favorite moment of the trailer? Was there something that I missed in my analysis? Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And in the paraphrased words of Captain Kirk, I shall see you out there. That away.